Okay, today's lesson is on rhyme scheme. I'm going to flip through the PowerPoint with you as I talk about each slide, but if you need to go through the PowerPoint at a slower pace, I will upload it on RenWeb also. It just won't have my voice with it. Also, this is the one PowerPoint that I added effects to, so it's going to take forever. Most of this slide is a review from the previous set of notes that you had. Just to review, a stanza is a group of lines in a poem. Not all poems are divided into stanzas. If you have a stanza made up of 2 lines, that's called a couplet. A 3-line stanza is called a tercet. And a 4-line stanza is called a quatrain. Make sure you know 2-line and 4-line. They're going to be on the test. Like I said a second ago, not all poems are divided into stanzas, and that's fine for rhyme scheme. You'll see how that works as we get there. All right, rhyme scheme is the pattern of rhymes used by poets. When we talk about rhyme scheme, we are only concerned with end rhymes. Remember from the previous notes that end rhymes are words at the end of the lines that rhyme. They do not have to be in consecutive lines. They just have to be at the end of the line. An internal rhyme, remember, is when you have a rhyme inside the same line. We're not worried about that at all. We are only worried about end rhymes when trying to find rhyme scheme. To determine rhyme scheme, you identify, or I maybe should have said label, each line with a letter of the alphabet, which sounds confusing now, but it's very easy when I give you an example. You always start with the letter A because A is the first letter of the alphabet. So the first line of every poem will be labeled A. Actually, the first line of every stanza will be labeled A. If the next line has an end rhyme that rhymes with the first line, then it also gets the letter A. If it does not, it gets the letter B, and so on. Again, it'll be easier when you can see an example. Every time you start a new stanza, you completely start over the rhyme scheme. So, like I said, the first line of every stanza will always begin with the letter A, so none of you should ever miss that. Okay, so this is not like a real legit poem. This is just an easy thing to show you. My cat is nice. My cat likes mice. My cat is fat. I like my cat. This would be just a 1-stanza poem because your first line is always designated as an A. So every time, every first line ever gets an A. The last word of your first line is nice. You don't even have to read the poem to tell you the truth. The last line, the last word of the second line is mice, which obviously rhymes with nice, so it also gets the letter A. The next line ends with the word fat. Fat does not rhyme with nice and mice, so you go to the next letter in the alphabet, which is B. And then the final line, the last word is cat. It does not rhyme with nice or mice, so it does not get an A. Cat does rhyme with fat, however, so it gets the letter B. If this word did not rhyme with fat, if this word were dog instead of cat, then it would get the letter C. You just keep going down the alphabet. Okay. Another example, and all I did here was scramble the lines. So now the poem reads, my cat is nice, my cat is fat, my cat likes mice, I like my cat. The first line, again, always gets the letter A. Your second line ends with the word fat. Fat does not rhyme with nice, so it gets the next letter in the alphabet, B. The third line ends with mice. Mice rhymes with nice, so it gets an A. The fourth line is cat. Cat does not rhyme with nice, but it does rhyme with fat, so it gets a B. So your rhyme scheme for this poem or this stanza would be A, B, A, B. The previous poem, the rhyme scheme would have been A, A, B, B. Okay, another example, I just changed it up a little bit. My cat is gray, my cat is fat, my cat is cute, I like my cat. So your first line always gets the A. Your second line, well, the last word of your first line is gray. Last word of your second line is fat. Fat does not rhyme with gray, so you give it the next letter in the alphabet, which is B. Your third line ends with cute. Cute does not rhyme with gray or fat, so it gets the next letter in the alphabet, which is C. Your fourth line, cat. Cat does not rhyme with gray, but it does rhyme with fat, so you give it the letter B. So your rhyme scheme for this little poem would be A, B, C, B. Okay, here's an example of a real poem. This is an Emily Dickinson poem that we will look at later on. I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us, don't tell, they'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody, how public like a frog, to tell your name the livelong June to an admiring bog. So we'll talk about what the poem means later, but right now I just want you to be able to pick out the rhyme scheme. And the next slide actually gives you the answer to this, but before we go to that, it'd be really good if you guys could kind of try to figure this out on your own. I'll help you a little bit with this one. Start with the first stanza. Your first line, I'm nobody, who are you? This is gonna get an A because the first line always gets an A. Are you nobody too? Does two rhyme with you? If you were all here, you would say yes. So it also will get an A. Then there's a pair of us. Does us rhyme with you and two? No, so it goes to the next letter in the alphabet, which would be a B. Don't tell, they'd banish us, you know. No doesn't rhyme with you and two or us, so you would give this a C. So your rhyme scheme for this stanza would be A, B, C. Now, when we go down to the second stanza, we start all over. You always start over with each stanza. So how dreary to be somebody gets an A. It does not matter that it doesn't rhyme with you and two because this is a new stanza. We're starting completely from scratch. In the second line, frog. Frog does not rhyme with somebody, so you will give it a B. Your third line, June. June does not rhyme with somebody or frog, so you give it a C. And then your last line, bog. Bog doesn't rhyme with somebody, but it does rhyme with frog, so you would give it a B. So your rhyme scheme for this stanza would be A, B, C, B. All right, and then here are your answers so we can kind of check ourselves. And one thing that I want to bring to your attention here is that even though these stanzas come from the same poem, they can have different rhyme schemes. The rhyme scheme for the first stanza is A, B, C. The rhyme scheme for the second stanza is A, B, C, B. That's fine. This is just a 2-stanza poem, but if it had been 3 or 4 stanzas, you know, you might have one that is the same, you might have one that's different, and that's totally fine. There are no rules that say you have to follow a pattern of rhyme scheme. All right. Okay, this is not a poem in its entirety. This is the first stanza of another poem that we're going to read, The Village Blacksmith. So you guys right now, you can like pause this video or whatever, but try to fill in the rhyme scheme yourself and then we can check our answers. Remember that you always start with A, and because I've only given you one stanza here, you will not restart anything. So just pause this and take as much time as you need to figure out what the rhyme scheme is. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you the answer so we can talk about it.
You did that too fast.
All right, so the first line, under a spreading chestnut tree, that's going to be A because it's the first line. The village smithy stands. Stands does not rhyme with tree, so you give it the next letter in the alphabet, which is B. The smith, a mighty man is he. He does rhyme with tree, so it gets an A. With large and sinewy hands. Hands does not rhyme with tree, but it does rhyme with stands, so it gets a B. And the muscles of his brawny arms. Arms does not rhyme with tree and he or stands and hands, so it gets a C. Are strong as iron bands. Bands rhymes with stands and hands, so it gets a B. And our rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B. All right. Another stanza of the Village Blacksmith. Same thing, just pause the video and try to figure it out yourself, and then we'll go over the answer. Remember, this is a new stanza, so the first line, his hair is crisp and black and long, gets a letter A. Okay, so we've gone ahead and labeled the first line with an A. His face is like the tan. Tan does not rhyme with long, so it gets the next letter, which is B. His brow is wet with honest sweat. Sweat does not rhyme with long or tan, so we give it the letter C. He earns whate'er he can. Can does not rhyme with long, but it does rhyme with tan, so we will give this line the letter B. And looks the whole world in the face. Face does not rhyme with long, tan, or sweat, so it gets the next letter, which is D. For he owes not any man. Man does rhyme with tan, so you would assign it the letter B. Your rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B, D, B. All right, I think this is the last practice. This is a Robert Frost poem, Fire and Ice. So go ahead and do this one. I think I might have multiple stanzas on here. Go ahead and do this practice. Start with letter A and just check your end rhymes. You can pause the video. Okay, and then here's your answer. I'm not going to run through every line of this. I think we've probably done that enough. Check your answers. If you missed it and you have questions, you can email me. We'll go over it. That's it.